Support for Radio Friends comes from Roseheart Hypnotherapy, serving Central Missouri since 2007. They specialize in pain management, pre- and post-medical procedures, fears, phobias, and increasing performance and success in every area of life. Athletes needing sports hypnosis to improve their ability will be pleased to know that Roseheart Hypnotherapy specializes in neurofeedback and is the only certified OptiBrain train and golf practitioner in Missouri. Call Roseheart Hypnotherapy at 888-604-9997 or visit mohyp.com and experience true success. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Friday, June the 15th. Going into Father's Day weekend. That means Larry Brown is with us, our singer, songwriter, and storyteller. Today, you got the storyteller hat on, right?
That's correct.
Okay, there's no hat at all, but we'll
wait,
say it's...
Wait, here we go.
Yeah, it's a storyteller hat, and I'm assuming this story has to do with Father's Day, right?
Since I did a classic Mother's Day story, this one's going to be a true Father's Day story.
Oh, okay. Does it have a name?
Well, let's just call it father-daughter relationship.
All right. So here, without further ado, is Larry Brown with a true Father's Day story.
Now, some folks say there is that special bond between father and daughter, and I think I can testify to that. When my wife and I heard that we were about to have our second child, and our first child was just shy of being 2 years old, it was news of both joy and some anxiety. Well, joy, of course, that we would have a second child, but the anxiety was that she was expected in May of that year. It was 1970, and I was to graduate from college that very same spring, and to prepare that summer to make the transition to graduate theological seminary, and that meant moving out of Lincoln, Nebraska, all the way to Indianapolis, Indiana. And finances were of some concern. The timing wasn't just exactly good. But May came. We were working with the same doctor that had delivered our first child, although we were shifting hospitals this time, and the doctor had given us a hint that there might be some complications, which I'll tell you in a minute. Well, the day came, and we were off to the hospital, and our son had been taken to a grandmother, and in those days, they didn't allow fathers into the delivery room or the nursery. The hospital told us that, well, one of these days we'll do it. As soon as one hospital in the city does, we all will, but not yet. So at the crucial moment, I was ushered out of the period of labor and into the father's waiting room, which seemed like an eternity, till finally a nurse came in and said, "It's a girl." And then I had to wait till I could be ushered down the hallway to peer through the glass window at one of those babies that was identified as my daughter, Angelica. Well, there were complications. We had a blood incompatibility, and it meant that her blood was rejecting her own red blood cells and building up a chemical called bilirubin, which eventually could cause brain damage if it is not relieved. Typically in an infant, your liver is sort of delayed in kicking in, and then finally it goes and things are cleansed, but sometimes it doesn't. So they were prepared to have to do a blood transfusion, a total blood exchange. So they had kept intact a piece of the umbilical cord in case they had to do it, so they could just kind of run things then through. And as I peered at my daughter, there she was, all jaundiced, and a little cap over her head with a light shining down on her that was supposed to draw out the bilirubin. And then we were informed if it doesn't change, there will be a transfusion. And indeed, within a day or so, they said, we'll have to do the blood exchange. And so they did that. And then they said, now we have to wait and see if this is going to work. We might have to do it again. But in the meantime, they dismissed my wife from the hospital and kept our infant daughter, Angelica. And they said my wife could come back to the hospital intervals and feed her, but not to nurse. So we would have to go on infant formula. Well, as my wife and I got back home and began to calculate, so, well, in her condition, we thought maybe that I would go some of those times to feed our daughter. So I went to take my turn, and I came to the nursery and said, "I'm the father of Angelica Renee Brown. I'm here to feed my daughter." And there's raised eyebrows and conversation and a phone call, and she comes back and says, we've never have a father come into the nursery to do that, but we got permission. Well, they let me in, made me scrub, put on a gown, put on a face mask and a cap. I sat in a rocking chair, and they brought my daughter, and I got to feed her. And after that, for the next couple of days, we were able to rotate until we took her home, and all was well. So my daughter and I did break some traditions, but not the end of the story. We were scheduled in July to go to Denver to attend a 2-week practicum in preparation for graduate seminary. And my wife and I were to go and would take our 2-year-old son, but now we have a 2-month-old infant. So we dropped our son off in southwest Nebraska on our way to Denver and took our infant daughter, Angelica, with us. When we got to the seminar, it was going to be happening in a Roman Catholic seminary. And then we were informed that all the women, some women students or some women spouses, could not stay overnight in the Roman Catholic men's dormitory. So the women were housed at a separate facility off campus. But my wife and I had been sharing responsibilities for our infant, and so we agreed that one night Angie would be with my wife, and one night she would be with me, and that's what we did. And so when she was with my wife, she had a nice little bed in a dresser drawer, and when she was with me, I pushed my bed against the wall, made a little nest, and of course had the cooler for the infant formula and the bottle warmer for her. And when she awaked in the night, I fed her, and we continued that, knowing full well that we had broken another rule, for she became the first woman to stay overnight in the male Roman Catholic seminary. Well, as you can see, I think that special bond has continued, and she and I to this day mutually support each other's goals.
Oh, that's a beautiful story, and that was a totally true story.
100%.
Have you told that story at some of you?
Well, I've shared that story, and some folks know that story. And, of course, being 2 months old, she has very little memory, conscious memory of that.
Right,
but she's
right.
heard that story as well, and it's been a favorite friends and family story, but I don't know that I've told it formally as a...
No, that was a very, very nice story, and it was a good Father's Day story, too.
Well, I hope so.
The stories that you tell, Larry, how many of them have you created yourself?
Oh, that's of maybe the, say, at any given time, I may have a couple of hundred stories out there.
That you have created yourself?
Well, that I have either from scratch, or I've taken the material and massaged and manipulated it so that I can say they're my story.
Do you write them down, or are they all committed to memory?
There's a diversity. Sometimes the stories just happen and they're there, and sometimes they're preserved only in my mind. Sometimes I make notes afterwards, and sometimes, as a few stories I've had have been published, they have been created into a written narrative.
Have you ever gone on stage and you were going to tell one story, and then all at once you decided, I'm going to improvise and just make a story up right now?
That has happened. This certainly has happened, or change the story as it is being told.
Yeah, all right. We're out of time, but want to wish all of you a very happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to you, too, Larry.
Yes.
If people want your stories, or they want to contact you, the best way?
The best way, contact me, brownstory@hotmail.com.
Okay.
Get a hold of me by email, or look at my website, Brownstory, and you can get in touch with me.
Okay, brownstory@hotmail.com. Happy Father's Day. Bye-bye.